Hello, this is Anna Marie Askin-Evans with Center for Holistic Psychotherapy. Welcome to our YouTube channel, the Center for Holistic Psychotherapy. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. And the purpose of this channel is to provide psychoeducational information and not therapy. We do encourage you, however, that if you are having mental health issues or you know someone who might, please contact your local mental health professionals or go to psychologytoday.com, plug in your zip code, and a list of providers in your area will appear. We're back with Mark Clark, and we're going to talk more in depth about his books, how his books came to be. So Mark, I thought maybe you could really expound on, how you became a writer, what kind of adversity you may have overcome that really inspired some of your writing.
Well, for me, writing has been my avenue of overcoming adversity. So when I was younger, I went through, I guess, a lot. My brother was killed when I was 27, and I didn't think I'd make it through that. And I was in New York and I was writing, and I ended up writing this really, really dark comedy called A Very Special Morning that helped me get through it. It was like really dark and really hysterical and really out there. And that's how I overcame that in my life. And I did the same things when I started writing stories. I went through a not too friendly divorce, and I didn't get to see my daughter for almost a year. And I decided I used to tell her stories when she was little, mostly like 5 or 6 or something. And I always wanted to write them down, so I couldn't remember them all, so I wrote them new, but they made me feel closer to her. So I used names of friends of hers and things that she would do or say, and based it all on her not wanting to get up out of bed and stuff. And so I think the stories are naturally inspired for little girls overcoming things and being resourceful and resilient. So they have that natural, they were birthed from that, I guess.
I think it's interesting that you went, from, and I'm sorry to hear about your brother, and that you used that type of dark comedy to overcome resilience, because we all have our ways of overcoming, but then to turn that around in a different avenue, to when you didn't see your daughter, to write these more fairy tale, more uplifting,
right,
can-do storylines. What maybe one story that sticks out that you wrote about where you could really see that it made a change, not only for maybe your daughter at the time, but just for young little girls that are reading, or having it read to them?
Most of them do that, I feel like, that the girls are put in a position that changes them. There's one princess who never let go, and it's about this princess who keeps everything, and the way she learns her lesson is that she can't keep anything more, and she has to let other people keep it for her. And once she starts to see what a gift is like to someone else, it changes her. So that one more than anything. And my dad has helped me as an editor. I have an editor and him, so a second editor kind of. And I was rewriting that story and going, I feel like such an idiot because I can't write this without crying. I can't read it without crying. And he goes, nobody can.
Aww.
I went,
Aww.
So that one really gets to me every time. I can't get through it without crying.
Well, again, that's another way of your healing too, of you overcoming as well.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful.
It's really interesting that I always say that I should read what I write, because somehow I think I'm lucky that I'm blessed that ideas come through me. I don't feel like I made up all this stuff. I don't think I'm alone on it. And so what's on the paper is probably stuff that I'm working through or working out. And so there's stories that I have that, like, there's one about or the one I'm working on, really, a new book. It's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, and in it, when the princess wakes up after 100 years sleep, all of her muscles have atrophied, and she can't speak or control her muscles. And she shares the dreams of this girl who wakes up from a coma in modern times with cerebral palsy, and she can't speak or control her muscles. So they share each other's dreams and struggles, but one in a fairy tale and one in modern day life. And you're never sure who's the dreamer and who's dreaming. And after I wrote that, I went, well, what does two girls with special needs have to do with me? And I realized there's a more universal theme for it, which is that they speak to each other through glass or through mirrors. And the idea at the end, unless you're looking in a mirror and seeing the smartest, best person you know, or a princess, then you're looking through other people's judgments of you, other people's lens. So it really is, it was about me, like, looking at myself and not liking it, and how to change that, and overcoming, and then what you have to do to get through all that.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, you also wrote the Royal Fables, and tell us about that, because that was inspired by children who are suffering various ailments.
Cancer, yeah.
Cancer.
Yeah, when I first started writing, we wanted to spend more time on social media, and I said, well, I don't want to just write about what I'm writing about, or the weather, or what I've done or eaten or something. Let's find a way to give back. And my friend was on the board of a foundation called the Ready or Not Foundation. They're associated with the Texas Children's Hospital in Houston. So we went there and talked to kids in their cancer centers and asked them to come up with a title for a prince or a princess story. And I was going to write the stories based on their titles, and they would do the drawings. And so if you want to talk about resilience, the families that I meet there, like, I spent 15 or 20 minutes with a girl, one of the girls from there. Her name was Alexi, and just like reading a story and stuff and talking to her. And afterward, her mom's outside. She's going, that is so great that you do this. I go, me, I'm like here for 15 minutes. You're here every day. She was there so long. My friend wanted to buy her sandals, like cool looking sandals. And she didn't know her size anymore because she'd been in the hospital so long, she didn't know the size of her feet. So those families are the most resilient. They're like, most people say, I don't think I could survive that. And you go, you do. And that's one of the hardest things you'll do, but they do.
And that's what we talk about. We have that innate drive to overcome. It doesn't mean that it's easy. And so seeing these young children that are, suffering from cancer, their resilience, and then their families as well. Can you think of a little person that you met that just really spoke to you in terms of seeing their resilience as well? I'm sure there were several of them.
Well, that'll take me to my third book, because I wrote a book called The Princess and the Parakeet, and it was because of a young girl I met when I was doing the Royal Fables. Her name is Brooke Hester.
So she was part of that.
She's part of that. I picked one of her titles. I think it was The Princess Who Was Too Demanding. And she did a couple of drawings for it as well.
Well, I know that was an award-winning book, so I really want to see if we can spend some time with just speaking about that,
Oh,
maybe in
sure.
our second half,
Oh, that'd be great.
because I think that it's just an amazing story. So with the Royal Fables, tell us what you talked about, that if someone purchases a book, it
Oh, right.
contributes.
So every dollar from the sale of the Royal Fables, at least on my store, goes to the Ready or Not Foundation, and I think they have a matching grant for every dollar, and then it goes to Texas Children's Hospital for pediatric cancer research and awareness.
So I'm thinking about this, and we will put that resource up for you too. So personally, you had to overcome, personal adversity when it came to your marriage and not being able to see your daughter, and then the loss of your sibling, and then also then starting to write about that, but then meeting these young children and their families who had to overcome health issues and the adversity there. But you also wrote another book called The Invisible Boy. Tell us more about that, because it sounds like he had to overcome some adversity as well in a different way.
Yeah. All the stories in The Invisible Boy are about kids who don't fit in. I was just felt like I didn't fit in. That's why I moved to New York. I went, maybe I won't be the weirdest person in the room, like, and it's true. Now I live in LA, and like, there's plenty of weirdness there. So I was a middle child, like the middle of 5, so I had no claim to fame at all. So that's who the Invisible Boy is in the story, a middle child who just doesn't think his parents ever really see him, and how he overcomes that and sees it and goes off on his own and makes his own world, where he's the one who decides what's good about him and what's not, and what's brave about him and what's not. And then he can come home and their opinion doesn't matter as much anymore, even though they've found that, the missing of him, they love him even more, and that they didn't show him that. So all the stories are about different children dealing with different things, because I feel like that's kind of what my job is, and what fairy tales do is give you people think they're too black and white, and that's exactly the point. Where else do children get reinforced, this is good and this is not, and that honor and truthfulness and kindness and sympathy and empathy bring you happiness,
right? Because
that's a truth. But people think that's too black and white, there's no gray area. You go, there really isn't when you come to that. When you come to virtues and values, when you use them and practice them, that's what brings you happiness. Right. When you seek happiness.
Which is a key component of resilience, right? Is that we have to learn to accept certain things, but learn how to overcome them, and have our own, stick to our values, stick to our character, our competence, our capability, how to cope and how to connect and how to contribute. And this is what I love about your stories, is that you incorporate all of that. They're also entertaining and just well written as well. So I think it's really wonderful that you're doing this. So if you were to talk to our audience right now, what would be something that you might want to have them take away before we start our second half, when we talk more about The Princess and the Parakeet? Well, because one of the things is, I know that we teach children a lot, and we always say that kids are resilient. They don't know that until we teach them that, and that we show them that. And I think these kind of stories just really reinforce that.
I think hopefully that kids will find parts of themselves in these characters, and they can see how you can be the hero of your own story. Hopefully that's what they do. One of the reasons that in your introduction, you introduced me as a neuroeducation activist, is because when I started going to schools and talking to kids, I had to say who I am and what I do and why I do it and why I'm here. And so I had to start examining that, and that brought me to the studies of the brain and how you learn, and why are you writing fairy tales, and why are you writing for this age. And I found that from the age 0 to 7, your brain is developing just like your body, and you're in a theta brainwave, which means you're halfway into a dream.
Right.
So they're coming out of a dream at 7, and that's when I talk to them, because people are treating them like they have to learn, and they're judging them, and they're grading them, and they're stricter, and they have responsibilities, and you go, those are a lot of things to take on when you just came out of a dream. So hopefully I give them tenets and things to hold on to, and go, oh, somebody else had that problem, so, and figured it out, so I can too, and I'm not alone in the problem too, because there's a lot to take on.
So you go to schools, you visit schools. Tell me a little bit more about that experience.
It's what I work on all the time, because I'm trying to learn my message clear enough so that I can succinctly tell them what I came here for. And a lot of it is that fairy tales are real. People have told us that that's make-believe, and they're not. It's if you can learn how to be a good person and how to pursue happiness, you actually can have a happily ever after. People think fairy tale and fake are the same thing, and I think the opposite. I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be trying to be good, kind people and look after each other and overcome adversity together, and be happy.
Right.
Pursue happiness.
And that it seems that you empower it through your characters, that it's up to all of us, that we have that ability to overcome. It's really great. I'm so excited for you and for all the kids and the young readers. So what I'd like to do is we're going to continue with Mark, and on our second half we're going to really talk about his award-winning book, The Princess and the Parakeet. So stay tuned.